the Leafs have their development camp going on this week. Mark Masters is there. I saw he just was talking to Haley Wickenheiser, and Haley's Leafs assistant GM, player development, and I guess was asked about Easton Cowan. And she said, quote, he's very close, and he's going to make a push. Always hard to take that jump from junior. That's a big step, but he's proven everybody wrong at every level, so I don't put it past him. And, like, that'll be a big story come September when that kid shows up. Like a big, big story.
It'll be lower down the rankings, though, Hayes.
It will. I mean, we all know who the first guy. Like
yes.
when Marner steps up to the mic, everyone's going to be like, "How did you react to everything? What do you make of it? Why do you love being a Leaf? What do you see happening in the future?" Like that's going to be an absolute circus. It'll be more muted for Tavares, but I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with John, what they do with the captaincy, if that becomes a thing. I'm not convinced it will. But if it becomes a story...
It'll be a story on the first day of camp, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
Don't they have to make a call on that before they get there? Like,
but they're not going to announce that, I don't
No, I know,
think.
but don't you have to have an idea?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
if you're going
yeah.
to change captaincy, you're doing it
100%.
before the cameras
You're doing it in
up.
the summer. You're doing it now.
Yeah. Exactly. You're making the announcement. And
No, I don't think they would announce it.
Okay, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
The team knows and the players know
Yes.
in the summer this is what's happening. And you're right. They would announce it. They'd probably leak it right before camp open, or day one the coach would come out and speak on it. Berube would take those bullets.
Do you think that's 60-40 not or 40-60 the other way?
60-40 not.
Yeah,
I would lean more towards that not happening, and I think it's picked up a little steam here, partly because there's maybe not that much to talk about, or maybe because someone wants it out there. I don't know, but there should be validity to that argument. But I don't think it's like a closed case has to happen. There's some back and forth with that.
Right. And, the assumption is that Matthews will be the next guy, and I assume that'll be the case. But Auston needs to wear this history as well. Like Austin's been along for the ride.
But I don't think that's what it is, right, Hayes? Like, that's not what you're saying with it. You're not saying it's John's fault.
You're not? What are you saying?
You're saying we need to change, and we need something. We need to change something, and for whatever reason, what we've been doing, I mean, all the reasons, hasn't worked. Mm-hmm. We didn't change the roster. We're going to change the leadership. Auston is the leader of the team. John knows that. John's important, blah, 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 blah. It's not anything bad about Tavares.
It's embarrassing for Tavares if that happens.
Is it, though?
Of course it is. Don't think he takes pride in being the captain of the Maple Leafs?
I mean, he's on the record as saying that.
Of course he
does.
Sure. How did he react when he got pushed to the third line? What do you think this will be like?
He was not happy.
Of course.
But that's why you do it in the summer.
Times 100.
You give it time in the summer.
Listen.
Would you do it?
No, I wouldn't. I would change the players is what I would do. That's what I'm on record saying.
Yes.
This to me would feel like a bit of a cop-out.
Would it make anyone uncomfortable? Would this make the group uncomfortable?
But that's
in
probably
any way?
okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's what you'd be going for. I think didn't Ken Holland say that when he put Jack Campbell on waivers this year? I needed to do something to make these guys uncomfortable. Very different situation. Jack Campbell
had like a 750 save
better,
percentage.
Like the Sharks, remember they did this multiple times, I think.
Yeah, they did. Never worked out.
No, they made a final at one point.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
You're right. I mean, listen, maybe it happens, and ultimately, it's what it only would matter in terms of the impact it would have in the room. It makes no difference to the way you talk about 100%. The team and who they are and how they're going to play.
And it's the same people, right? It's not like if Matthews has the C, he's suddenly acting differently.
And that's my point. Austin's been it'd be one thing if if Sidney Crosby walked through that door and you're like, we're giving it to Sid, and Sid's the guy now, and it's different, and everyone follow this guy because look at him, but. Also with Auston, and it's more about what is said privately. Ultimately, that's all that matters. How are you motivating your guys? What kind of leadership skills are you showing behind the scenes? That's really what matters. But I would love to have seen and heard Matthews after this year look and sound really pissed off. Do what McKinnon did 2 years ago. Do what McDavid's done, where he's like, I'm so sick of this garbage. If he did that, I'd be leading the charge, saying that's your guy. But I just never get that sense from him.
Any of them.
No, it was let's go and protect Mitch and protect the guys and say how we learn lessons and just get me out of here.
It was very defensive.
That's not public leadership.
I would love to know, back in, I don't know, if you go back 10 years, right? Like, what was Crosby saying the years that he lost? What was Ovi saying the years that he lost? Like, we talk about McKinnon because it was a great soundbite and there was a lot of accountability and, that really kind of picked up some steam. But if you went back over the years, like, I just wonder what those guys would have been saying. Jonathan Toews on the years they didn't win. I don't know. I don't think it would be defensive. I think there would have been probably a little more accountability, but I don't know if it would have been as bold as what McKinnon was saying. Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle.
That's reasonable. And some of those guys also won so quickly that frustration didn't build up.
That's a fair point.
Sid won his 4th year in the league. Taves won like his 3rd year in the league. Those guys they weren't 8 years in. 9 years in. But look what McDavid did this year with the Oilers. That was his 9th season. This will be Matthews' 9th season. He's the man. Captain or not, he's the man. It's his responsibility with the rest of the group. But he's got to lead it. Like, he's got to look like a man possessed in the playoffs, or they're never going to get it done.
I mean, that one game, that kind of is what you're talking about, but then he was hurt.
Game 2, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he got hurt. Exactly. And then, and that's, again, it's 8 years. It's not just this round against Boston. The year before against Florida, he didn't score.
You can't look at it in a vacuum anymore.
No, you can't.
Like, you can't.
There's
we
no
can't
more
do this. We can't just do the Boston series because it was the Boston, the Florida, the Tampa, the Columbus, the Montreal.
Right.
Like, if you get into you can't do this. But if you get into the Montreal series again,
that's a rough one.
That's got to dig up some serious scar tissue. Mm-hmm. Has to.
Yes.